Here in the nation's capital, protesters came out yesterday to demonstrate against President Trump's reconciliation bill. Their goal, putting a real face to the potential consequences of Congress's actions.
Last year, I was able to get back in school. I just graduated high school. I'm looking to attend CVCC. I'm doing an auto technician systems program in August. I'm relying on Medicaid and SNAP to help me continue my schooling. If I do not have it, I could go to school and I'd have to worry about not being able to eat that day.
I was receiving Medicaid until I did what you, state and local representatives, said to do, go to work.
My God.
Struggling just to walk or do daily simple but not so simple tasks, I went to work. I did everything you all told me to do, state and local representatives. You pulled a whammy on me, and you took my Medicaid away.
My life is not a waste. My life is not fraudulent. Wanting to live a full life is not taking advantage of the system. I pray that they choose to not kill the people they represent.
Those stories and that protest was part of the ongoing Moral Mondays demonstrations, which are scheduled all summer long to highlight the human cost of some of the planned cuts to social programs like Medicaid. Joining us now, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. He's co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign and the leader of the Repairers of the Breach, the group that organizes the Moral Monday protests. Reverend Doctor, thank you for joining us. I wonder if you can talk to us more about the stories that you've heard from people who are coming out, braving heat in a lot of these cases at these protests, to just try to get lawmakers to understand what the impact is going to be for them, an impact that isn't Republican or Democrat, it's just on people.
It's just life. I mean, these people, we've been screaming since Ash Wednesday and saying to the faith community, we should have been out long earlier than this, because Elena was literally risking her life yesterday. She didn't know she would have an aneurysm. His son is a quadriplegic. And there are thousands of people like that that have testified. Millions of people tuned in yesterday. Almost 1,000 people joined us. We had 51 caskets, because 51,000 people, according to studies at Yale and Penn, will die in the first year of this bill, because it is a policy murder and policy violence. This bill is morally indefensible. It cuts more than 16 million people from health care unnecessarily just to give money to the greedy and wealthy who don't need it. This is a damnable, destructive, ugly, deadly, violent bill. It is constitutionally inconsistent because these people swore to provide for the general welfare of all people and to ensure justice. There's no justice about this. And this bill is economically insane. I mean, the amount of money that's being transferred from poor and working people to the wealthy that don't need it. This is the biggest transfer of wealth that was was transferred from the slave master. From the slaves to the slave master. I mean, this is civilizational changing stuff. This is harmful and deadly. I almost cry when I sit there and look at Hurley, how she risked her life yesterday to come from West Virginia. And what we're saying to the Democrats is, this is who you should be putting on. These are the people we should be showing America. This doesn't have a damn thing, to do with Democrat and Republican and white and black and North and South. We're talking about passing a piece of legislation that's going to kill people year after year after year after year, and it is morally indefensible.
You know, Reverend Barber, I think there are a lot of, Simone, how are you? There are a lot of people out there who, because they are close to the issue, whether we're talking about the health care piece of this, whether we're talking about the SNAP benefits. I know the coffins you all had yesterday had also numbers of how many people from each state would be affected by the loss of supplemental food assistance. I think the people closest to this issue that have been engaged, that anybody has told them about it, they are rightfully riled up and upset about this. They cannot believe that their elected officials would do this. But there are also so many people out there that could potentially be affected, that will be affected by this bill when it goes through, devastating effects that have no idea how are you taking your message to some of these people in some of the most remote places across this country that you have organized in for a very long time, so that they are aware of what is happening and what the consequences would be if this legislation goes through?
Well, you're right, Simone. We've been cross-posting everywhere. We've got people in 42 different states. We've done over 200 hours of calling, letting impacted people do the calling. And you're right. You're talking about millions of people losing their food stamps, their SNAP. At the time, we got these high grocery prices. And you're talking about all of this being done for the love of money, which is evil. And that's why our movement is focused on poor and low-wage people, you know, the most powerful potential voting bloc in the country, if we can mobilize. But what we've said to many of our politicians, and we're glad you all are doing this, MSNBC, is too often the politicians are talking and not making the stage for the impacted people. Right now, I would say to politicians, you need to get all these impacted people to Capitol Hill. You need to get them in the galleries. You need to do everything you can to put a face on this, because most Americans don't agree with this, but the more they see it, and then on top of that, when they know this bill passes, your rural hospital closes. So you might be 25 miles from a hospital now. This bill passes, you might be 200 miles from a hospital. That means that you are outside of what's called the 1 hour golden hour. If you have a heart attack, you have an hour. You could die just because your hospital moves. And we saw that in North Carolina when North Carolina for years refused to expand Medicaid. Hospital after hospital was closed. Simone, I met a lady who died in a parking lot waiting on a helicopter because the hospital had been moved from right around the corner from where she lived. And she was white, a former Republican, but her husband and her were angry at Trump and the Republicans and changed their tune before she died. But she suffered the consequence. This bill, and I say it clearly, we know policy murder. That's what this is. People don't like that term, but when you know something is going to kill people, and you do it anyway, and you do it in a rush, you do it in the dark, and they have refused to allow hearings. America, hear this. They won't even allow the experts and impacted people to come to Capitol Hill and say what's going on in formal hearings. That's how dangerous and deadly these bills are. And that's why Tillis and Musk are turning on. And what my prayer is, because, you know, they arrested us for praying. They need to be arrested for preying, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G, on the poorest and the most vulnerable people in this country. But they're turning on each other. And our prayer is that that will happen more and more, because there's no excuse. When people start dying, nobody will be able to say they did not know. They know exactly what they wanted for the love of money.
And you talk about the fact that North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis is expected to vote no on this piece of legislation. We're waiting to see if other Republicans like Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins do that as well. For now, Reverend Dr. William Barber, thank you. Symone Sanders Townsend, thank you as well.